Hola y bienvenidos a Elementos de Language School. Me llamo José y soy el lingüista barbudo y esta es lección 2 y vamos a hablar sobre las matemáticas. Ok, puedes encontrar esta lección y otros recursos en nuestro sitio de web que es www.elementalcodes.com. Alright, so hello and welcome to Elemental Codes Language School. My name is Joseph and I am the Bearded Linguist, and we are going to go over Lesson 2, Part 2 of Lesson 2, which is Las Matemáticas, which is math terminology. You can find this lesson as well as other resources on our website, which is www.elementalcodes.com. And I am in the process of working on adding links to other people's stuff, not just mine, like free stuff you can find online, YouTube videos, um, Facebook, whatever it's called, watch or whatever video, Facebook videos. Um, just as much stuff as I can find, I'm going to create links, and that way you can, you know, find other stuff that's not from us, just because we're all about you learning. I don't care if you use other material. In fact, I encourage you to use other people's material. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there, so I encourage you to use whatever you can. I'm not going to just like own a monopoly. In fact, I was going to reach out with teachers that are teaching other languages and see if they wanted to have a link to their, lesson plans and stuff, and maybe have like a an example of what they do in their teachings on our site, not because we're going to get paid by them, not that I want any money, but so that you have more resources. The whole idea behind this is so that you have more resources and you're able to find them in one place is what my goal is, as well as to be able to, promote what I love, which is language. I love languages. I want to learn as many languages as possible. In fact, right now I'm kind of doing a study on Spanish, Catalan, Portuguese, Romanian, uh, Italian, French, and then I'm also studying Hebrew at the time. So, biblical Hebrew to be specific, although I've been studying modern Hebrew as well, but I'm actually in school for biblical Hebrew, um, you know, so, but that's our goal with the website. So hopefully we can get that up and I can have more time to work on it when it's 24 degrees outside right now, which is like I think it's like 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. It's not warm at all. It's freezing, and it wouldn't be bad. The sun is out, but wouldn't be bad if there wasn't such cold wind blowing. I've gone out a couple times. It's kind of it's horrible. I hate the cold. All right, so this is what we've gone over in the first video in the lesson 2 category. The first video in lesson 2, we've already gone over all of these in the first video. It's really long, but what I'm doing in these videos is breaking them up into smaller videos so that if you want to just look up, how do I say 0 through 10, you can do that. If you want to just look up math terms, you can do that, etc., all the way through. And so by the time we get to the 5th video, it's going to be a quiz. And hopefully I'm going to be putting the audio of this on like a podcast as well, so that if you don't want to watch a video, you can always listen to it. Now with YouTube, although YouTube, I don't know what's going on with them, but they're not they started driving me crazy because I had premium and I would try to listen to stuff and it would stop playing even though I was paying for it. It was just really annoying, so I canceled my premium and I ended up getting Spotify, which had everything I was listening to anyways. So I'm gonna try to create multiple, you know, platforms so that you have a variety of ways of listening to this or looking at it or whatever. I'm going to even create PDFs. I'll just save the PowerPoint presentation as a PDF, and then I will add a link to our site in order for you to be able to download the material, like the actual words and stuff, and then you can study if that's what you like to do. I know that not everybody learns the same, so we all learn differently. But these are some of the things that I'm hoping to accomplish, and if it stays 24 degrees, I might be able to get a lot of it done because I do not want to work outside. All right. All right, so las matemáticas. So las matemáticas in English is math, or the it's literally the mathematics, okay? And you'll notice that if you watch the video before this on 0 through 10, it said los números, so it's LOS. And we'll get into uh, the definite and indefinite articles when we get into nouns, but just know that, and this is just kind of to kind of introduce you, I guess, to the fact that in Spanish they have masculine and feminine nouns, and so they have to agree with the indefinite or definite article has to agree with the noun. So in the last video, los números was masculine or it is masculine and it's plural, whereas in this particular slide, las matemáticas is feminine and plural, and so this is why it's las and not los. So there's really three genders in Spanish, although one's not used quite that often, like it's only used a little bit. There's masculine, feminine, and neutral or neutered, okay? And we'll get into that when we talk about nouns. There's really not a lot of neutered or neutral nouns, but there are some. Lo básico, lo básico. All right. All right, here we go. So on the left side we have the inglés, which is the English, and then on the right side we have the el español, which is Spanish. So el inglés y el español. All right, so the first one is addition. And I started recording this, but I had to go back in. I think I may have, I don't know, it's been a while. I don't know if I added it in the first video, but if I didn't, I'm correcting it right here because I had forgotten la sustracción, okay, which is subtraction. So I added it to the slide, so I had to redo it. But the first one is addition, which is la adición. La adición. Remember, the accent is where you enunciate. You enunciate the accent on the vowel. It's always going to be on a vowel. The only other accent that's not on a vowel is the ñ, which is its own separate letter, really. But yeah. So la adición, and then you might also hear la suma. La suma, which is, you might want to think of it as the sum, okay? The sum, the addition, okay? And then the verb to add is sumar, sumar. And there's also another verb to add, which is añadir, which is to add. But I didn't put it here, and I don't know why. Should I? I'll do another thing with math when we get into more like complex math, like fractions and stuff like that. I'll add añadir. And then there's also sustraer, which is to subtract, which I didn't put here. All right, so subtraction, like I was saying, is that originally I didn't have la sustracción, which means subtraction. And there's also la resta, which means to subtract. This means subtraction, and then to subtract is restar, and then, as I said, sustraer is to subtract as well. And I'm not sure why I didn't put it, but I'll add it to a later course. It's fine if you don't, if you don't remember. You could always look up on Spanish dictionary, adding or subtracting. If you need to know, it'll tell you multiple different ways of saying it, because there are multiple different ways of saying each word, just like in English. You have adding, you have the sum of, you know. So well, I'll do a separate thing for this again. Okay, so multiplication in Spanish is multiplicación. Multiplicación. If it's hard for you to say that because it's a lot of syllables, start backwards. Say ción, ción, cación, cación, plicación, plicación, tiplicación, tiplique, it's hard to say. Tiplicación, multiplicación, multiplicación, multiplicación. So I went a little bit overboard on that one just because it's so hard to say when you get up to, like, you know, multiple syllables. But if you practice, it'll become easier, and you may never have to say it, you know. So let's see, division, and division is división, división. And down here I have to multiply and to divide, so I won't go over it here. So división. So the B's in Spanish, if you don't remember, they sound like a soft B. So it's división, división. So it's not quite the V sound as in English. It's a B, the B, like a very soft B. División, división. You may not even hear it. Okay, you will in like dividir, dividido. Okay, you might hear it. It's just like you're barely touching the consonant and going, and it's a more of a B sound. All right, equals. So there's three different ways of saying equals. Okay, and I'll explain each. The most universal way, I guess, put it. No other way of putting it, but the most universal is es igual a. This one you can say for any number, es igual a, because it's literally saying it's equal to and then whatever number it is. So this one you don't need to really worry about what the number is. These two here are, S is used for anything that is 1 or 0. All right, so it's like singular, and we'll see this again in a way when we get to telling time. Okay, although there's no 0. Well, I guess if military time, I don't know if it goes to 0. But all right, so anyways, so S is for 1 or 0. All right, so if I say cero más 0, okay, we'll get into plus here in a second. But cero más 0 es 0. So 0 plus 0 is 0. And then uno más 0 es 1. So 1 plus 0 is 1. Now if it's 2 or more, then it's going to be son. Son. So uno más uno son dos. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So that's the only difference between that. So basically, all you have to remember is that use S for 0 or 1, and then son for basically everything else. Kind of. All right, so as I was kind of hinting at, plus, like 1 plus 1 is más, más. So 1 plus 1 is uno más uno. Okay? And we'll go over certain words like más, which can mean multiple different things. And if it has an accent on it, it means more. All right? Minus, like 1 minus 1 equals 0, is menos. Menos. So uno menos uno es 0. Okay? You can also say resta. Resta. So dos resta uno es uno. All right, so 2 minus 1 is 1. All right, and then to multiply or times, like you would say 4 times 4 or whatever. So to multiply, the verb is multiplicar, multiplicar, which means to multiply, and then times, like 4 times 4 would be, you would use por. So cuatro por cuatro is 4 times 4, but it's also 4 by 4, like a 4 by 4 truck or something. So, and we'll go over por in a later video when we talk about por y para, okay? Because those are some things that like, well, anyone learning Spanish gets confused where they don't, if they don't have two different words that translate the same way like in English. So in Spanish, por and para are two different ways of saying for, kind of. In English, you would say for. In English you would use for, but in Spanish you use por or para, depending on the context or what you're trying to say. So we'll go over that later. That's a different thing. That's one of the things that that causes a lot of confusion in people that are learning Spanish who speak English. But we'll go over it. Don't worry about it. All right. So to divide is dividir. Dividir is to divide. And then divided by, you could either say it dividido por. Dividido por. So the D's you kind of want to have, it's almost like a TH sound. So you got a soft B sound, like DB, dido, dido, dividido, and then por. Okay. So that'll help you hopefully with your pronunciation. It's not dividido, all right? Because everything in Spanish, all the vowels, they are always going to sound the same. So it's dividido por, dividido por. Okay, so if you need to make the E sound with when you're saying I's in Spanish, do it. You also have dividido entre. Dividido entre. So that literally means divided into or divided between. But it's how you would also say divided by. Okay, because in English we say things a certain way, but there are synonyms that can kind of be used sometimes, even if they, like if I say it's divided between two people, then that's kind of like divided by. It's divided by two people, divided between two people. So it can almost mean the same thing. It's a little different, but just so you're aware, dividido entre or dividido por, okay? And then the final one is to be left or to remain, like a remainder. All right. So in Spanish, they don't really, okay, I could be wrong, and I'll try to look this up, but I don't believe that they have the word like with a remainder of, like we have, because in English we say with a remainder of. With Spanish, it's to be left. Like quedar means to it literally means to like stay, like but it can be used in multiple different ways. It means other things as well, but in this case it means to be left or to remain or to be left, if that makes sense. So if I said 5 divided by 2 is 2 with the remainder of 1, okay, so it'd be 5 dividido por 2 son 2, queda 1. Or you could say y queda 1 with the remainder, and it remains 1. So, well, don't get too hung up on this, and if I ever do make a mistake, which is entirely possible because I'm a human being and I don't care. I've learned a lot of stuff, and sometimes I don't necessarily review all the information before I start, and sometimes things come up that I'm not sure about. So I will let you know if I am wrong in anything in future lessons, just because I don't want you to learn something and then have it be wrong. But also, I'm starting tonight. I'm gonna try to do it tonight. Well, I don't know if we'll do an actual video tonight, but I'm gonna at least talk to my friend Ana in Guatemala, and we're gonna start kind of creating videos between her and I. I'll have to talk to her about like what languages she wants to focus on right away, and once we get some of those, but she was actually wanting to learn like 12 different languages, and I'm in the process of learning. I'm trying to learn the major Romance languages all at once. Although I speak Spanish, I can read Portuguese and I know a little bit, and I've taken classes in French. Um, I know very little Italian. I know very little Catalan. And I know very little Romanian, but my goal is to be able to learn these things, and so we're gonna come up with videos. Some of them are gonna be like reviewing apps and stuff like that, reviewing lessons that are out there. So like what I want to end up doing is kind of like taking classes from people and kind of like reviewing them online and giving you the pros and cons, and kind of like going from there. Apps are a big thing because you don't want to pay like $200 for unlimited access to something that is useless or that's not really how you learn or whatever. So what I want to do is I want to start reviewing apps and stuff like that, and so hopefully we'll have other videos for that particular thing. Okay, so but she corrects me all the time, so it's not like I haven't studied for a long time, but I make mistakes. So if I do make a mistake in any of these videos, I will try to go back and correct it in a future video, and I might even redo the video that I made the mistake in. I haven't decided yet, but uh, we'll see. All right, so. And this is the final page of this video, which is and I'm trying to keep them around 20 something minutes or so. But tips for practicing, I would suggest reading books or articles or magazines or whatever, newspapers in the target language, in this case Spanish, and reading them out loud so that you can practice your pronunciation. All right, get a journal and a notebook and write down words that you don't know. I used to highlight or underline words in books, and then it became difficult if I wanted to read the book again. So I could show you one of my books is actually one of the first novels, I guess, that I have. It's kind of old and it's got like tears, but I finally finished reading it in Mexico. I think last year or the year before, I can't remember. Which, I read most of it before, but I wanted to reread it and finish it all. But like, I don't know if you can see it. I like underlined in it and stuff like that. This one's not horrible. I mean, I can still read it. I tried to be kind of careful with the underlining, but I underlined when I first went through it to read it. I underlined certain words or phrases that either like I know what it means, but like I didn't necessarily know the structure of it, or it's like a word that is specifically to this. Like in this case, this is it's written from the Dominican Republic, and so it's got some Dominican Republic type idiomatic expressions or dialectical variations. So I kind of like underlined those as well. But write it down in a notebook. Write it down, sound it out, define it. Practice it. Even write down a sentence. Write down the word. Write down the definition. Write it in a sentence, and then break the sentence down. Like you don't have to be in a hurry to learn. Everybody's in a hurry. They want to learn it in like 2 weeks. Listen, unless you have a really good reason, which, I don't know what that would be, but unless you got a really good reason, I would just try to learn it right the first time, because when I started making mistakes and nobody corrected me, it's really difficult to get out of that habit. So it's a lot easier to learn it the right. It's a lot easier to learn it the right way than it is to undo mistakes that you've used several times, like over years, and nobody said anything. And yeah, so. All right, so another good way of learning is to watch Netflix shows or movies in English and then watch it in Spanish. Watch it in English with Spanish subtitles, watch it in Spanish with English subtitles, watch it in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. And use a notebook, right? Write down phrases, words, things you don't know. I mean, because you're going to come up against a lot of vocabulary, especially depending on what kind of shows you watch. There's going to be different things. Like if you're learning academic Spanish in school and you watch Lord of the Rings, you're going to learn a lot of different uh, words. Like sorcerer or necromancer or whatever. There's going to be a lot of things that are you're not going to really learn in an academic setting, if that makes sense. All right. All right. So, and then just take notes, and then study. Okay. I would not suggest putting your device in Spanish until you get up to a higher level, but that is one way. If you put your devices in the target language, then you're forced to be able to like look at it all the time. So it's a way of immersing yourself in the language, but I would suggest that you have a high degree of knowledge in the language before you put your device in it. Because at one point, when I first started learning Hebrew, I went to try to get a Hebrew keyboard, and I ended up putting I think it was Microsoft Word. I put Microsoft Word all in Hebrew, and it was only I don't know. It was only because I knew where I had done that I was able to get back, and I knew the word for English. So I was able to get it back into English, but you know you don't want to do that if you don't know you need if you're not able to read it. All right. All right, so listen to podcasts, books, lessons, this kind of stuff. Listen to it on a regular basis. Try to set aside time, like if you're listening to something, maybe on if you're driving to go to work or whatever, um, while you're exercising, or even like if you're using the restroom, or if you're like let's say you're married and you're a man and your wife is going shopping she wants you to go with her, but you don't have to push the cart around. Maybe you can sit and study. I mean, I usually try to bring a book everywhere I go, like a book of whatever if I'm learning something, or just a notebook if I'm using apps, stuff like that. All right, so there are good lesson books, very few. I mean, most of them are just like kind of like they say one vocabulary word, like how do you say horse in Spanish? And then it'll say like you say caballo, right? So it's like it's kind of annoying. I prefer reading a book in English. Like for example, I said this in the last video. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I've got it in English, I've got it in Spanish, and I've got it in Portuguese. I also have one. It's a marriage book done by a rabbi, and there is one book for men and one book for women, and the women are not supposed to read the men's book, and the men are not supposed to read the women's book. Well, I got the book. Not that I agree with everything in it, but it's a good book to read. And I got it in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and French. So my goal is to be able to just to read through in each language and kind of continuously do that. Not just one time. You do it like multiple times. All right. So set aside time every day to study and you can even create your own quizzes. If you don't remember what that's about, go back to the last video. I don't want to get into it too much. It's already 28 minutes. And then you can use flashcards. You can make friends on social media and where you live, maybe. If you, like, for example, I live in Ohio and there's a high Spanish population, especially around Columbus. And now in the town where I live, Marysville, it's it's getting a lot bigger. There's like, Mexican restaurants. Let's see, there's ice cream shops. There's like a whole bunch of places where the owners are um, even like near here in Plain City, there's the restaurant that a guy that used to work here in Marysville, he opened it up, and he's really cool. He's from Guatemala, and so there's like a lot of ways that you can use, like not use people, but like make new friends. Like use what knowledge you have to make friends, and kind of like ask them questions and have them teach you Spanish, and you can teach them English if that helps. I mean, there's different ways of doing it, language exchanges, stuff like that. I had a friend who only spoke Spanish and he wanted to learn English, and I only spoke English and a little French and wanted to learn how to speak Spanish, and so we helped each other out. So that's all I'm saying there. All right, there's tons of Facebook groups devoted to this type of stuff. There's also apps and stuff where you can meet people. I would be careful on some of the apps. My friend Anna, which we'll talk about later, she paid for, I think, Italian or something on this app, and ended up got her card hacked and was like, they were just withdrawing money from her account. So you gotta be careful. I've been hit on by both both guys and girls on certain sites. Uh, uh, yeah, it's been disturbing. Like a lot of people treat it as like a dating app, like they want to date an American or whatever. I just want to learn, man. All right, so follow YouTube channels. Very simple. Rumble channels, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. Get books in Spanish on topics that you like to learn. For example, I've got a lot of medical stuff in Spanish and French, and those are primary. I've got one that has like multiple different languages where it's simple phrases that you need to know how to say in the medical field. I haven't really went through every single aspect of it, but it's got I think it's over on that shelf. But it's like it's got like several different languages, like maybe 9 or 10 or 12 or something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's got a lot. All right. So anyways, just books on stuff you like to learn. All right, and then enjoy the process and don't worry about if you are wrong. You're going to be wrong. You're human. You make mistakes. You're going to be wrong. All right, we are all human. We all make mistakes. Don't worry about being wrong. Don't get embarrassed. You make mistakes in your own native language. There was this phrase I saw where it's like, when you feel bad about like making a mistake after like knowing how to do something for a long time, just realize that you still bite your tongue after all these years of knowing how to chew. Okay? You still are gonna bite your tongue. So you're gonna make mistakes, even no matter how long you've done it. You're still gonna make mistakes. You're still gonna make errors. I mean, I make mistakes in English, for crying out loud. English is my native language. So don't worry about making mistakes. Just learn from them. In fact, I just saw something that somebody posted today on Facebook where they were talking about how their mistakes actually help them learn the language better, and they won't make those mistakes again because they made those mistakes. He was talking about how he had referred to his wife as his marida. All right, there's no word that exists in Spanish for for wife. That's marida. Wife is esposa or mujer, mujer if you're from Puerto Rico. So he was talking about how that mistake helped him to never make that mistake again. So there's certain things that you're gonna do, and you can't be so high strung about it. Just relax and enjoy it, man. Enjoy life. Learn. You make mistakes. So what? Keep going. All right. So hopefully that helps you. And I'm gonna do more videos because it's 20 degrees out and I don't want to work outside today. Even though I probably could, I just don't want to. It's cold. So, anyways, we'll get into numbers 11 through 1000 and then 1001 through 1 billion, and then we'll take a quiz, and I will also do other videos to try to help you with your language learning journey. All right, so my name is Joseph. This is Elemental Codes. Thank you, and see you in the next one. Hasta luego. Ciao, ciao.